Barabbin, which means in a group, especially a group of 10. There's something special about it that is more than if a person learns alone or with the chavrusa or a few people together, specifically when 10 people learn together. And what is it? Just like when 10 people daven together, they draw down Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim, Hashem's 10 attributes of mercy. And the 10 attributes of mercy is Hashem's compassion and mercy that's unlimited. So too, when you study Torah, you also bring down the 13 attributes of mercy, how it manifests through Torah. What's the connection between 13 attributes of mercy and Torah? So he explained the famous Brisa of Rabbi Shmuel, where he says that the Torah has 13 different methods of how we derive things from the written Torah to the oral Torah. And these 13 methods they correspond to the 13 attributes of mercy. So we see that the Torah is also connected to the 13 attributes of mercy. Today we'll start with the line that begins, the first word on the line is who. It's pretty much in the middle of the page. And we're going to start with the last word on the line. So you can either look at that. The last word on this line is ukamo. The first word on the line is who. Ukamo shapir shamagid memizrich nishma seiden. The Mezritch Magid gave the following interpretation. Kasher hiskir Moshe Rabbeinu olav hashalom mida rishona. When Moshe Rabbeinu mentioned the first of the 13 attributes of mercy, the 13 Yud Midas Harachamim, what's the first? Shem Keil. As we know, we say this in davening, in Tachnun, Hashem, Hashem, Keil, Rachum, V'chanun, Erech Hapayim, Rav, Chesed, V'emes. So the first of the 13 is the name Keil. Even though it says Hashem, Hashem, Keil, but it all goes together as one. So Moshe said b'tfilasa in his prayer, Keil na, Rafan na la. Hashem, I beg you, cure her, heal her. This is the story that's actually in this week's Parsha. As it happened to us many times throughout the year, we're learning a Maimer, and it's relevant to the week's Parsha, to that day's Chitas, to that day's Hayom Yom. This is in this week's Parsha. At the end of the Parsha, we have a story that Miriam said something which was not appropriate about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu separated himself from his wife. And Miriam said to Aaron, why did he do that? We're also prophets. And nevertheless, we don't have to separate ourselves from our spouses. And how come Moshe separating got divorced from his wife? And then Hashem rebuked her for speaking out against Moshe. Certainly, Hashem was the one that told him to do that. And then and then she became tzara, she had the leprosy. Because when a person speaks Lashon Hara, the consequences is leprosy. And here she spoke out against Moshe. In fact, this is something that's so essential that we say it every day. At the end of the davening, there are 6 things which are called the 6 remembrances. 6 things we should always remember. Remember we went out of Mitzrayim. We mentioned yesterday, remember that in the desert, Eden committed the sin of the golden calf, the Egel HaZahav. One of the 6 is remember what happened to Miriam in the desert when she spoke out against Moshe. And this is actually today's Parsha. So Moshe said to Hashem, he should beg Hashem to heal her. And Hashem said she has to be in quarantine, actually. That's also relevant to our times today. For 14 days. A Metzora is someone that has to be separated from everyone else. And the Torah uses the term sort of locked in. And Hashem said to Moshe, a kal v'chomer. We mentioned yesterday, kal v'chomer means that if something which is lighter or lesser, of a lesser degree, has to go through something, then something which is more severe surely needs that. And in this case, if this would have happened on a human level, where someone spoke out against her father, wouldn't this person have to be sort of locked away for 7 days, like a Metzora? That's what leprosy is. So in this case, it being that this is talking about Moshe and something that involves the Shechina, she should surely be locked up for at least 14 days. Now the 7 and the 14 is another discussion we won't go into, but this is called kal v'chomer. If these are the consequences for an ordinary person, how much more so should these consequences be towards Hashem, towards a tzaddik like Moshe? This is called kal v'chomer. So what do we see? That Moshe Rabbeinu mentioned the first name of the 13 Yigimel Milas Rachim, Kale. What happened the next thing was Hashem tells him a kal v'chomer. In other words, Moshe mentioned the first attribute of the 13, and Hashem mentions the first method of the 13 methods of learning Torah. So we see that these two correspond. That means every one of the 13 methods of Torah correspond to one of the 13 attributes of Rachamim, of mercy. This is the first one, so it corresponds to that first one. I just want to say while we're at it, it's interesting to note that the Rambam talks about this, and he says that this Miriam was a tzaddikas. This was an ordinary lashon hara chas v'shalom. He didn't speak against Moshe. But the Rambam writes that here Hashem told Miriam, Moshe Rabbeinu is not like all other prophets. Don't compare him to other prophets. And the Rambam writes there are 4 points. I'll mention them briefly, that Moshe Rabbeinu is superior to all other prophets. 1 point is, all prophets receive the prophecy in their sleep. And Moshe Rabbeinu received the prophecy while he was fully awake. Another difference is all prophets received their prophecy through a malach, through an angel. And they received it in some sort of a metaphor. Moshe Rabbeinu received it directly from Hashem. And Hashem spoke to him in a clear language, not in metaphors. The third point is that all the prophets, when they received the prophecy, they were overwhelmed by it. In fact, their body went into sort of shock mode. There's a place where the Rambam describes how when a Navi received prophecy, his body was shaking as if he had some sort of an attack because he was overwhelmed by the presence of the prophecy of the Shekhinah. Moshe Rabbeinu absorbed everything and was very contained. There was no difference than one person talking to another person. And the fourth point is that all the Nevi'im, at the moment they received the prophecy, that's when things were happening. And after that, it left them. Moshe Rabbeinu had this prophecy 24/7. There was no interruption. He was on that level constantly. And in fact, that was the reason why he had to separate himself from his wife. And the Rambam concludes, imagine, she didn't say anything wrong about Moshe. She just thought that Moshe was on the same level like all other Nevi'im, like all other prophets. So she knew he was a Navi. She knew that he was a great Navi. She just didn't recognize that his prophecy was way, way superior to other Nevi'im. And nevertheless, that was considered in a more subtle way, more refined way, lashon hara, and there were consequences. How much more so that you don't speak outright lashon hara. But it's just interesting to see that how there are different levels even in tzaddikim. even in Nevi'im. And we have to be careful to recognize that there's a tzaddikim that are far, far superior than other tzaddikim, and not to chas v'shalom underestimate their greatness. So let's continue. The Ksiv, as it says, "Vayei Hashem al Moshe, haleisi kolim shivas yamim." If this would have been in an ordinary circumstances, she'd be sort of locked away for 7 days. And so therefore, now when we're talking about the Shechina, kal v'chayma the Shechina, how much more so that in the case of the Shechina, she should be locked away for even more than 7 times. Hooray, what do we see here? Shaydeh, Yud Gimel, Sarachamim, Meshachim, and Yud Gimel Midah Shabbatayra. That through the 13 attributes of mercy, this brings down the 13 methods of Torah study, which means K'may Shaydeh Shem Kel, just like pronouncing the name Kel, which Moshe did, Nimshach Inyan Amida the Kal V'Chaymer, this drew down from Hashem the attribute of Kal V'Chaymer, the method of Torah study called Kal V'Chaymer. So too through all the 13 methods that the Torah derives things from the written Torah to the oral Torah, these 13 methods, mamshichim givu yud givu midas harachmim. So this goes back to what he said before in the Maimer, that when you study Torah, you draw down Hashem's 13 attributes of mercy. It manifests in Torah, but specifically that is when you're studying Torah b'rabim in a group of 10. This also explains another thing that our sages said. Haray al pasuk haray b'shashanim. We all know the famous pasuk, Ani l'daydi v'daydi li, and then the pasuk concludes with the words haray b'shashanim, that they pasture in roses. What's shashanim? The Gemara says shashanim b'halachas. The word shoshana means a rose, it's a flower, but shoshana can also come from the word in Hebrew, shona means to study, that they study the laws of Torah. So it's referring to the Jewish nation, to Yidden, and they're compared to a rose, but they're also compared to a rose because of this fact that they study Torah. So the Zohar explains this. So what's the parallel to a rose? The Zohar says, Man Sheshana, who is that referring to the Knesset Yisrael? These are the Yidden. They're called Shoshana. Ma Shoshana is but Tleiser Alin. Just like a rose has 13 petals. Uvhachi Knesset Yisrael is but Tleiser Mechilin Derachmim. Yidden also have 13 attributes of mercy. The Sachar Alei Mikol Sitra. These 13 attributes of mercy encompass them from all sides. So the Gemara says Shoshana means studying Torah. The Zohar says Shoshana means a rose, a flower that has 13 petals. So it goes together because Torah is connected to the 13 attributes of mercy. So this is the main point in this first ois, that learning Torah in public, learning Torah in groups, has in it more power because it draws down the Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim. Beis, let's go to the second ois. V'nei haleim de Torah b'chlal, people who study Torah in general, Umalam de Torah b'frat, and people who teach Torah to others, nikroim neturi karta. Neturi karta is a term that's found in Gemara. I know you might have heard the word because there's a group with that name in Eretz Yisrael. But the word Neturi karta is Aramaic, and it means those who protect the city. Why are people that study Torah or teach Torah called protectors of the city? It means that by them learning Torah or teaching Torah, not only does it have spiritual benefits that I'm studying Torah, but it actually has physical benefits. It brings bracha and protection into the city that they live. In fact, it's something which has halachic ramifications. There's a halacha about certain things that go on in a community, that when the community gets involved in certain projects, everybody has to participate. Without going into the details, but there are certain halachas that say that Torah scholars don't have to participate in certain activities because by them learning Torah, they're contributing to the protection of the city. So everyone else does these physical things that need to be done to bring protection and blessing into the city. And those who are Torah scholars are exempt because they do that through their Torah study. But Ikaru, primarily, even though this is through Torah study that everybody studies, but on a larger scale, it's through limud of Torah b'rabim dafka, when you study Torah in public. In other words, generally speaking, anything that a person does, whether it's Torah, whether it's a mitzvah, anything, it draws down godliness. And wherever there's godliness, there's blessing and there is protection in general. And the reason is very simple, because Hashem is the source of all bracha. And what does it say in the pasuk? Atem adveikim b'Hashem Elokeichem. You attach yourself to God, your God. Chayim kulchem hayom, and you will all live. Hashem is the source of life. Hashem is the source of blessing. So the more a person is connected to the source of life and source of blessing, the more they will experience life and blessing. And it's interesting, in Gemara it says there are 10 that the word and the description of Chayim, life, is connected to them. Who are the 10? And you go through the list, you'll see one is Torah, one is mitzvahs, one is Bnei Yisrael, one is Eretz Yisrael, it's called Eretz HaChayim. Basically, the whole list of all the 10 are all things that are connected strongly to Hashem. So therefore, he's the source of life and he's the source of blessing. But naturally, like we said yesterday, if it's a higher level of godliness, then there's more blessing and there's more protection. Just like Begashmias, there's different things that serve as a protection, but some are stronger than others. And therefore, the same applies Baruchnias. So when you study Torah, of course, there's going to be a protection. But when you study Torah B'Rabim, because we draw down this the 13 Midas HaRachmim, Hashem's 13 attributes of mercy, the protection and the bracha is so much greater than one learns Torah on his own. And it's going to explain it. Here again, let's look and analyze what happens by tefillah, and we'll see how we can learn from what happens by tefillah, by davening, how this also applies to learning. Tefillah is something which is ascending from down up. This is a Hasidic term which we've had in previous Maimarim. Milmato l'mayla. Hainu, what does that mean? The resursa do letata is resursa do le'ela. Tefillah, davening, is something that we have to do something which is an arousal from below, and the arousal from below elicits arousal from above. So tefillah is sort of an up mode. And like it says in the Chumash, that Yaakov had a dream, and he saw a ladder, and the ladder is standing on the ground, but the top of the ladder reaches into the heavens, and this ladder represents tefillah, because tefillah is standing on the ground, and through davening, we ascend up the ladder, and we go up to Shemayim. In fact, when we learn Chassidus, we know that the first part of davening is ascending to the world of Asiyah. The second part of davening is the world of Bria, Yetzirah. The third part of davening, which is the Shema, we ascend to the world of Bria. And the Shemona Esrei, we ascend to the world of Atzilus. So davening is going up. And what does it mean practically? Practically is davening, even though there are many details to davening, but in essence, davening is about me stimulating and developing a love for Hashem. That I should think about Hashem, think about Hashem's greatness. That's what the davening is all about. But the ultimate goal is to come to the point where I say, "V'ahavtas Hashem alakecha." You should love Hashem with all your heart, with all your soul, with everything you have, and not just say the words, but after all the chapters of Tehillim, and after everything there is in davening that we meditate on, we bring ourselves to a place where we're on fire with love for Hashem. So that's going from down up. I am connecting to Hashem. And this is called in Chassidus, Isarusa del Tata, Isarusa del Leila, which means as much as I show Hashem my love, then Hashem returns that love to me. And the way He returns the love, how does that manifest? In what He gives me. What He gives me spiritually, what He gives me physically, as a result of the love that I show Him. That's called Lefi Ofen Isarusa del Tata, according to, in proportion to, and according to the arousal from below, Kachi Isarusa del Leila, that's what comes from above. That's davening in general. So I guess it means if a person davens with more kavanah, less kavanah, how much heart he puts into it, what level of love he develops, that will also determine what the return will be from above. Tefillah Sarabim, but when you daven together in a minyan, a group together, Umasharab, Maidei Tefillah, Mamshichim, Aidei Halos Man Shalahem, that the fact that there are many Yidden together gives it a certain power. By the way, this word Halos Man, that's the next line, starts with the word Al Yidei. Halos Man is a Kabbalistic term, which it means the same thing as the Isarusa del Tata, an arousal from below. So through that, there's an Isarusa del Leila, there's an arousal from above, Shaloi Lifi Erech Halah Shalem, that's not in proportion to their arousal from below. In other words, generally speaking, what I put out, that's what I'll get back. But davening b'Rabba means I do my davening the way I do it, but what's going to come from above is way beyond and not in proportion to even more than what I sort of deserve because of the way I daven and how I daven and so on. That's called the Isarusa del Leila, an arousal from above that's not in proportion to the arousal from below. I mean, one of the examples on a larger scale is what we have about Mitzrayim. In Mitzrayim, Hashem revealed Himself to the Yidden. As we said this many times, the way Hashem revealed Himself to the Yidden in Mitzrayim was unprecedented, and in fact, it never happened again. So open. All the miracles with the 10 plagues, and the miracles when they went in the desert, the miracles of Hashem revealing Himself by the splitting of the sea. But the Yidden in Mitzrayim were actually in the 49th gate of Tumah, of impurity. So we can't say there was an arousal from below that brought that arousal from above. What was it? Hashem chose to reveal Himself to the Bnei Yisrael, even though there wasn't a real arousal from below. That's called when an arousal from above is not in proportion to the arousal from below. Also, we find that generally speaking, Hashem helps a person do tshuva or other things depending on how much effort they make. And then we know there are many situations where a person has a certain merit or the merit is their own, or the merit might be a parent or grandparent or great-great-grandparent who was a big tzaddik, somebody special. And Hashem, in his own initiative, so to speak, arouses this person to do tshuva. If you've ever heard stories of people that they have a dream of a parent or grandparent that comes to a dream and says to them, enough is enough. I'm sure you've heard many stories like this. I myself told some of those stories in school, which means they weren't doing anything. They were doing their own thing. But then the time came, for whatever reason, that this great grandfather or sometimes a parent comes to the dream, tells them what they tell them, and that changes the person's life. So that's an arousal from above that's not in proportion to the arousal from below. So generally speaking, that's what happens when you daven with a minyan, and that's why it's so powerful. When you daven with a minyan, it brings an arousal from above of the 13 attributes of mercy. That's what it means, that Hashem will not reject my prayer. If the arousal from above would be in proportion to the arousal from below, then it wouldn't be appropriate to say that Hashem never rejects it. It depends. If I deserve, it won't be rejected. If I don't deserve, it would be rejected, or would be rejected partially. That should normally be that I receive from above according to what my arousal from below is. Like a person does a job. If you work for 10 hours, then you're paid for 10 hours. And you work for 20 hours, you're paid for 20 hours. Person works for a week, they don't get paid a year's salary. So basically, according to what I put in, that's what I get back. The same as with Hashem. But also, Begashmi, we sometimes find that a person doesn't do any work, and the other person who loves them and wants to show their love and appreciation, and they give them a gift. And you can't say it's in proportion to the work that they did. There was no work that they did. It's just a gift coming from the other person. So Hashem sometimes gives us a gift. And yes, there must be a reason for that. Probably you did something that would trigger this kind of feeling in the one that's giving it to you. The same with Hashem. I'm davening with a minyan. So even though I might not be on the level that I deserve certain things, but the fact that we daven with the minyan triggers, in a sense, the 13 attributes of mercy, and I get much more than what it's in proportion to what I put in. Now, let's turn the page to page Kuf Nun. What's drawn down from above is not in proportion of what the arousal from below is. Because what's the reason for that? Because when a lot of people get together as a group, there's a certain mila, there's a certain advantage, and that's only there when everybody comes together as a group. We find something similar to this even by an individual, not by a group. And when is that Aseret Simei Tshuva? Like our sages say, V'yachid Eimasai. When is there a time that a single person, an individual, could also experience this pasuk that Hashem doesn't reject my prayers, even though I'm just one person? In the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which are known as Aseret Yemei Tshuva, in those 10 days, we draw down the 13 attributes of mercy as an individual, just like the rest of the year when the Rabbim does it together. So in that case, it's not in proportion to the arousal from below. And that's why it's only in Aseret Simei Tshuva. In other words, there's certain times in the year that are called Eis Ratzon. which means it's an opportune time. And the reason why it's an opportune time is not because of me, but something that's going on in Shamayim, in heaven, that makes this time an opportune time. And when that opportune time comes, Hashem is sort of more open than other times to give his brachas and give us what we ask for, even in a situation where I might not be so deserving. And that opportune time, one of them is Aseres Yemei Tshuva. There are other times of the year that are considered Eis Ratzon. In general, Shabbos, especially Mincha time, is called as Eis Ratzon. In fact, we say it in the davening. V'anis filasi l'cha Hashem Eis Ratzon. In fact, even every day is an Eis Ratzon. We say this in the davening in the morning in Matovu, that it's an Eis, every time we daven, in a sense, it's an Eis Ratzon. But like everything else, there are levels. It says that when they take the Torah out of the Aron, when they draw the curtains, they open the curtains and open the door and take out the Sefer Torah, those moments are also Eis Ratzon. It's a moment that if you ask Hashem for what you need, it has more opportunity to be answered than any other time of the davening. It's also brought down that a bris, when you go to a bris, and those moments that the baby is actually crying because of the bris, those moments are also in Eis Ratzon. The gates of heaven sort of open up, and it's easier to accomplish what it is that I'm asking for. So, so when the rabbim daven together, b'chol hashana all year round, mamshichim yud gimel midas harachim. We draw down the 13 attributes. So all this is about davening. Now, when you daven barabim, you draw down an arousal from above that's not in proportion to the arousal from below, and we get something which is very powerful. Now he's going to explain how the same thing applies to Torah study. The same principle will be understood when it comes to Torah. Generally speaking, Torah is something which is described as momaylo lamata. It goes from above to below, to down. In other words, when you look at the difference between Torah and Tefillah, there are many, many sources in Chassidus that elaborate on what is the difference between connection to Hashem through Torah and connection to Hashem through Tefillah. There are many, many points that are brought out. But one of them is that Tefillah is momata l'mayla, it's from down up. Like I said before, I am developing love for Hashem, so I'm sort of elevating myself. I'm rising from my place and coming closer to Hashem. Torah is considered momaylo lamata, from above to below. Like when the Torah was given, Hashem came down on Har Sinai, and he brought the Torah down from heaven down to earth. So basically, Torah is something which was given to us by Hashem. He already gave us the gift. I'm studying Torah means I'm absorbing it. I'm taking it in, I'm containing it. But generally speaking, it's something which Hashem gave us. So Torah is mamaylo lamata. Nevertheless, even though it's from above to below, nevertheless, it still needs an arousal from below. Even though we say that Torah is something that appears to be not depending on us, it's something which Hashem gave us. Means it's something which is not totally in proportion to where I'm at and what I do, but it's not completely that way. When it comes to Torah study, it's necessary to put in a lot of effort and to actually labor in Torah study. It's not enough just to learn and study, even sit back in a relaxed way and just read the information. But the greatest maila in Torah is when a person is misyageh, when a person is working hard to understand, because when you labor, of course, you're absorbing much more. You're developing much deeper part of your intellect. So that means that even with Torah study, there's a requirement that it has to be an arousal from below. I have to invest. Everyone knows the famous quote, which is one of the 12 quotes the Rebbe asked children to know by heart. Yogaiti v'loy matzasi. If a person says, I labored in the study of Torah, but I didn't find Al Taiman, don't believe them. And if a person says, Lo yogaiti matzasi, I didn't labor, I didn't work hard, and I found, meaning I found this knowledge of Torah, don't believe them either. A person says, Lo yogaiti umatzasi, I labored away in the Torah study, and I found Torah study, then you could believe them, because that's really what needs to be done. So that means, even though Torah is a gift that Hashem gives us, nevertheless, what's required of us is yigiyah, to invest our energy and to labor in our Torah study. There's actually a pasuk where it says that the Eibishter, the Eibishter, the Eibishter is not satisfied with a person just studying Torah, but the Eibishter wants shetir amelim b'Torah, which means to really invest yourself in the Torah study. That's why it says, if someone says, I only have Torah, I don't need anything else, not only they don't have the other things, they don't even have Torah either. What are the other things? The other things are tefillah. The person says, I don't have to apply myself to tefillah, to davening, because I'm a Torah person. I'm just studying Torah. Not only are they lacking the advantages of tefillah, but they're also going to be lacking the advantages of Torah. Because even a person who studies Torah, nevertheless still needs that self-refinement that comes as a result of my davening. And he explains, so levad zeis masha eseg atera gufa tzarich liyis. Oh, I guess we got to stop here. Okay, we'll stop at this line. We'll start again tomorrow from Malachin.
Rabbi Majeski.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very welcome. Have a tzlacha d'kedei with your Torah and your tefillah.